Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back for another episode from Where I Sit with Dr. C. I'm your host, Dr. C. And yes, we are celebrating Black History Month for February and March. Yes, we're extending this to March. And I have a very, very exciting a few Black trailblazers that we're going to share with you. Don't forget, we are trying to find people you have actually not met in the annals of Black history. And so we're going across the country to find people that you probably haven't heard from or heard of. So we are definitely going to do that, and I can tell you right now, we have found some very exciting people from the state of Montana. And so here's your question, right? Black history in Montana? Well, of course, yeah. You will be amazed what I found in the state of Montana. And yes, the reach of Black history in this country extends to every state and territory in this country's possession. And make no mistake about it, we are going to try and share as much of that with you. And yes, Dr. C, yours truly here, randomly just picked Montana. And besides, I'm just as curious as you are. What kind of Black history do they have in Montana? Well, guess what? You will be amazed, and we are going to explore the great people who have made Montana their home and have actually made a difference in that state. So let's get straight to it. So our first subject of inquiry is Stagecoach Mary Fields. Her nickname was Stagecoach Mary. Now, the other thing I'm going to tell you, based on the research that I've been doing this weekend, I am not going to be able to bring everything that I've learned to you in these short videos because I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose your interest. So we try to boil down to the major highlights. So let's get into Stagecoach Mary Fields' story. So Mary Fields, known as Stagecoach Mary, became a legendary figure for her role in delivering the mail through challenging terrains, showcasing the resilience and determination of Black women in the West. And by the way, as I was looking at uh, the characters that made their mark in Montana, a lot of them were women. Of course, we're talking about Black history here, and a lot of the people that were in Montana that were making their mark were women. We're going to share two of their stories with you this afternoon. In 1895, in her early 60s, as she got started late, Mary obtained a contract by the United States Post Office Department to be a star route carrier. A star route carrier was an independent contract who used a stagecoach to deliver the mail in the harsh weather of northern Montana. And so, if you know where Montana is, in the wintertime, you know that the winters can be pretty harsh. So, back in the late 1800s, it was probably even worse than what it is now. Mary was the first African American woman and the second woman to receive a star route contract from the United States Post Office Department. The contract was secured with the help of the Ursuline nuns. And here's where it gets interesting. And like I said, her story is too compelling, and there's a lot there. I urge you, if you're really, really interested, to go out and do a little bit more research on your own. to find out how compelling and how interesting Mary's story actually is. So this contract was secured with the help of the Ursuline nuns. Yeah, it was actually a member of a convict at one time, Mary was. This was because they did not wish to see her go, as the nuns heavily relied on Mary for work done around the mission. Mary built a reputation of being fearless while working as a mail carrier. Mary's job was not only to deliver the mail, but to also protect the mail from bandits, thieves, wolves, and the weather as well. It's a tough job, right? Mary gained her nickname, Stagecoach Mary, due to her use of a stagecoach as a method of transportation to deliver the mail. Mary was also known for the guns she carried during the time that Mary was delivering the mail. She was known to carry both a rifle and a revolver. She was pretty handy with the gun. So, being out west during this time, during the late 1800s, right? If you were going to blaze a trail out west, let alone the state of Montana or the territory of Montana, you had to be pretty handy with the gun, and Mary was. Let's see what else we can learn about Stagecoach Mary. Oh no, that is it. Let me go back. I want to make sure. Uh, well, yeah, that looks like that's all we're going to get on Stagecoach Mary. But like I said before, there is a lot more there about Mary than what I shared with you in this video. I urge you, I really do, I urge you that you go in and learn a little bit more about Stagecoach Mary yourself. And so here we are. We're going to come to our second subject of inquiry, and this is York. That's the only name that this man has is York, and he was a black man that went along on the Lewis and Clark expedition. So if you got kids that are late elementary school and middle school age, I know for a fact that they have or are learning a lot about Lewis and Clark and their expedition west. So York, who was a slave, let's put it out there, he was a slave during this time. And so let's take a look and see what they have to say about York. According to In Search of York by author Robert B. Betts, York was born into slavery, the son of Old York and Rose, two enslaved laborers owned by Clark's father, John. So Lewis and Clark's father, his name was John, owned York as a slave, as as well as York's parents. So obviously, the father, I guess, gave York to his son to go on this expedition with them. So during the 28-month journey, Clark experienced a dramatic upheaval. In the West, Clark found a version of servitude vastly different from the one he had been born into. As detailed in the journals of Lewis and Clark during the 2 years of the Corps of Discovery expedition, York had handled firearms, killed game, and helped to navigate trails and waterways in early December of 1804. York was one of 15 men on a dangerous buffalo hunt to replenish their supply. Several men returned a little frostbite, wrote Clark in his journal. Servants' feet also frosted. Native Americans they encountered were reportedly, and this I find quite interesting. Besides these, just the mundane details about men get frostbite, but Native Americans that they encountered were reportedly awestruck with York's appearance. And he was later allowed to have a vote in key decisions. This also happened. But when the men returned to the east, as legends and heroes. This is the reason why we're talking about Lewis and Clark. So yeah, Lewis and Clark returned as legends and heroes. York, on the other hand, whose contributions to the expedition rivaled that of his comrades, returned to a life of enslavement. Now, Dr. C is going to have a little bit more to talk about when it comes to York's story. But let us move on and see what else we have on York. So, a combination of fear and curiosity about York may have given Lewis and Clark a leg up in their interactions with Native Americans across the West. As historian Thomas P. Slaughter points out in the Exploring Lewis and Clark, for the Nez Perces is one of the Native American tribes out west. All of the expedition's men were remarkable, but York was the most alien of all. A handful of white men, primarily early Russian trappers and seamen, had passed through Pacific Northwest territory by the early 19th century, but apparently never a black man. Not believing his skin color was real, they tried to rub the black off with coarse sand, only stopping when blood began to ooze from the raw spot. So the indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest, including Montana, could not believe the color of York's skin, and they were fascinated by it. Let's read a little bit more. According to Slaughter, this exhibition of York made a lasting impression. The Nez Perce have carried an oral history of trying to wash the color from York's skin. Well, this is interesting, right? Well into the 20th century. They called him, these are the Nez Perce, and of course, according to their oral history, they called him Raven's son for his color and the mystery he embodied. In one Nez Perce legend, recorded in 1966, members of the tribe wanted to slaughter the party, but when it emerged from the Bitterroot Mountains, uh, but feared retaliation from the black man. When the expedition needed horses to cross the Rocky Mountains, the Shoshone were unwilling to barter with Lewis until he promised them a glimpse of the extraordinary York. So I'm going to say this as a black man myself. We have always been interesting to everyone else, not because of the color of our skin, but because of everything that we are. Black people are genius people. We are smarter than everybody gives us credit for. Let me say that one more time. We are smarter than everybody gives us credit for. Our spirituality runs deep and is strong. Our creativity is second to none. And our accomplishments are at the top of the list of humanity. And as I say this, I'm really not speaking to the adults that might be watching this, but I'm speaking to your kids and your grandkids to let them know that throughout our history of this planet, you will always find stories just like York's. And your story, if you choose to accept it, would be just as extraordinary as York's. That's what I want to say about this man's story and about Stagecoach Mary. These are people that were making their mark during some very difficult times. The late 1800s was no picnic, and in York's case, the early 1800s, he was still a slave. He was still a slave. And so I could tell you, and of course, just like Stagecoach Mary, York's story is much more compelling than what I can share with you right now. So do your own research. It is out there. You can actually go to montana.gov and research African American history in that state. This is where I found all this information. So you could do it too. All right, so here's our third candidate for the third story that we are going to tell you. It's a story about Mary Bickford, and of course, just like Stagecoach Mary and York, there is a lot more about Sarah Bickford than what I could share with you this afternoon. So I had to cut out a little bit about her story, but her story is just as compelling as Stagecoach Mary and guess what? York. So let's see what we have to learn about Sarah Bickford. On April 10th, 2012, Montana honored Sarah Bickford by inducting her into the Gallery of Outstanding Montanans in the Capitol Rotunda in Helena. Sarah Bickford, a former slave who became one of Montana's most prominent businesswomen, this is really important, prominent businesswoman in Montana, and probably the nation's only female African American to own her own utility. And when we say own a utility, we're talking about like a water utility or a natural gas utility or electricity utility. And of course, during this particular time, they didn't have any of that, but they did have a water utility. More to her story, yet despite her public success, Sarah Bickford's life is difficult to piece together. By the way, I think that you will find, especially these prominent African Americans that are making their mark on American history, I think that you will find that it's very difficult to piece together a lot of the history of these prominent people that we are reporting on for you this afternoon. Okay. Like most African Americans who came west, she carried the burden of slavery, making her past especially difficult to trace. Sarah Gammon Bickford was born on Christmas Day, 1852 or 1855. See what I mean? It's really hard to trace when this woman was born because she was born into slavery. So, born on Christmas Day in either 1852, 1855, or 1856 in North Carolina or Tennessee. Her parents were slaves of John Blair, a wealthy Tennessee attorney and state senator. As was common, Sarah, nicknamed Sally, and her family took the last name of their owner. At some point, Sarah's parents were sold, and she never saw them again. I want you to think about that for a minute. You give birth, you're a parent, and you give birth, and you're sold off to slavery where your baby will never, ever see you again. Could you imagine such a life as that? It was tough during these times, but these people endured. They survived. And yes, dare I say it, they also thrived. Sarah Bickford thrived. Let's see a little bit more about her. So Sarah went to work in the French Canadian household of Adeline Lauren. Soon thereafter, she opened a bakery. So this woman had some business acumen from the very beginning. In lodging house on Wallace Street, perhaps with Lauren's financial assistance, which is common. Her advertisements for meals and lunches at all hours appeared frequently in the Madisonian in 1880 and 1881. Bickford's business endeavors demonstrate the value of traditional women's work in Montana Territory, primarily male mining camps. So, a lot of her customers were people from these mining camps, men that were from these mining camps. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, and I wasn't able to fit this information into Mary Bickford's story. She had been married several times, and she has had a lot of kids, of which a lot of her kids passed away, okay, from the diseases of the time where there weren't really any cures. So I want to fill in that gap before I move on to the next paragraph. So when Stephen, which happened to be her, I believe, her third husband, died in 1890, and this is where she got her last name from her husband, Stephen, the Bickfords owned two-thirds of the Virginia City Water Company. Once her husband died, she was left on her own. Sarah Bickford took a business management class. Think about this. Sarah Bickford took a business management class by correspondence, purchased the remaining third of the company. This is the water utility. And in 1902 became the sole owner of the utility. And in another bold move, she purchased the infamous Hangman's Building and converted it to her office. This is a woman with a vision. For those of you who would like to become small business owners, you gotta have a vision. And this woman, Sarah Bickford, had a vision. She knew what she wanted. She had the goals. Can I just come out and say it? She probably also had a business plan, marketing plan, all that good stuff. And she followed it and not let anything stand in her way. Whew, powerful. So, Sarah Bickford not only managed the business, she personally visited every customer and learned their needs. She was also her own bill collector, keeping after her customers to pay their bills on time, while at the same time she earned the respect of the community that she belonged to. It was not always easy to dog her customers, i.e., make sure they pay. Sarah Bickford was a businesswoman and a really good one at that. And yes, there's a lot more to her story as well. I strongly urge you to go out and do a little bit more research about our three people that we're sharing with you this afternoon. And I urge you to go ahead and see what else you can find out about these folks. And yes, definitely share with us on the channel. So we are celebrating Black History Month for the rest of February and well into March as well. I believe that just about 1 month of studying and celebrating Black history is just not enough. So we're going to extend it well through March here on the from where I sit show with Dr. C. Okay. So my final thoughts here is this. I am a student of history. I love writing about it. I love researching it. I love learning everything about our past. And when I say our past, I'm talking humanity's past. My specific focus is on African American history And the main reason why is because people need to know how much we have contributed to our society as well. And when I'm talking about our society, I'm talking about the society of this country. Okay? If you don't know where you came from, how do you know where you're going? Just food for thought. The other thing that I would like to add, and of course, and we'll end today's uh, this afternoon show, is that we are going through some trying times in the country, and I am hopeful. To believe it or not, I am hopeful that we are going to see our way clear to the end of the tunnel, where we will see some light. And when we start to see that light, we as a country and African Americans, black folks, my brothers and sisters that live in this country, need to be part of the story once this nightmare is over. And we, black people, need to be the ones telling the story. Nobody else can tell our story the way we can. And so the Mary Bickfords and excuse me, the Sarah Bickfords and the Stagecoach Marys in York and everybody else that we're going to talk about these next month and a half. I want you to burn their stories into your memory bank and share this information with your kids and your grandkids and urge them to share these stories with their peers. It's that important. So, thank you for listening to another episode from Where I Sit with your host, Dr. C. And I look forward to sharing more interesting Black history stories with you next weekend. And do not forget, today's show, as with all other shows, is brought to you by Christopher Studios, where art and literature is the point. You can find my products, my books, and my artwork on the website, www.christopherstudios.net, and get in there and please make a purchase of something today. Also, keep in mind, this upcoming weekend, next Saturday, or I should say this Saturday because today is Sunday. This Saturday, I will be at the new Black Wall Street Market in Lithonia, and I urge you to come on out and share some stories and come make a purchase with yours truly, Dr. C, with Christopher Studios. Until then, you guys stay black, stay beautiful, and yes, we are still in Black Valentine Black Valentine's Day weekend. Get on out there and make your significant other happy. By the way, a happy significant other, i.e., a happy wife or happy girlfriend, makes your life happy. Keep that in mind. We'll see you guys next weekend. And yes, you'll hear from me throughout the week. And so until then, ciao and enjoy the rest of your day.